we have been very excited for a couple of days with this tall ship. Everybody flocked into the Aberdeen harbour, had opportunity to peek into the different quarters of the harbour that we normally do not have access to. And in the meantime, we all excited to see different modules of this ship. Someone even happy to stand on a queue to get onto these ships. And we also stood for 22 minutes just to get on to one of the ships. And on that ship that we went, we asked one of the staffs, and then he was saying that he volunteered to be on that ship, but he had to pay about 1,620 euros something for 7 days. And then I thought that's very expensive. But according to his expression, it's very cheap. He will have accommodation, he will have excitement, training how to sail the sea, and also visiting different places. So he said it's very cheap. So this is how it works. For us, that's very cheap because that doesn't make sense. But for someone who is very enthusiastic, who wants to learn about it, and also see that after going through that, he could apply further other professions, other furthering educations or other jobs, we are happy to pay. And this money becomes not that expensive. And sometimes it is maybe expensive, but looking at the further results and how much comfortable or how much opportunities are going to receive, so we are happy to pay. Like having a driving lessons, it's a very expensive. Nowadays, I presume £30 per hour or 40. If that's a weekend, even more expensive nowadays. It doesn't matter how hard and that money to gain, but we're still happy to gather the expense and then happy to pay for it. So that is how we are driven for certain achievement in our life or certain excitement. And that's another reason why people go on a cruise. Just for a week or 2 weeks, happy to pay for 3,000 to 4,000 pounds. And 3,000 to 4,000 pounds is quite a bit of money. But to get this entertainment and relaxation, then happy to pay for it. So that's why it's called the desired driven objectives. Then we are happy to do anything for it. And that's exactly the reason why we are all driven to do something, one thing or another. And we are always expecting results from it one way or another. Doesn't matter whether that result is temporarily, whether that is foreseen the results, or that's just for this life, or just a material gain, or just to have next comfortable life. next life, or we're born in a heaven and having an eternal life, something like that, or a complete liberation. That based on what do we want in our life, what do we want to be, and with that we put an effort and work on that. We strive in it, and then we continually endeavor to do that. Now, obviously, on this path, people will be following either into the very rough and then very tough towards the dark path for this attainment, and another path is more brighter and a lighter and more a secure path. That's why whenever we talk about dons or mafias, we suddenly think of some form of a fear of how bad they normally do. But in the same time, another path that more of a like easy path, but difficult one, and yet there is a comfortable and then free in our psychologically feeling freedom from that path, like a normal job that we do, waking up in the morning, going to work, come back and have a comfortable under our own roof. So we don't have to have that much fear in it. So, according to the practice that based on Buddhism, we gather that first of all we reduce and remove these dark paths, knowing that the result can be terrible, a result can be not a good one. So encourage us towards the wholesome practice. And in that wholesome practice, sometimes can be very boring. Because this path, according to Buddhism, this path is very boring because you're asked to reduce your entertainment. You are instructed to control your senses. Control your senses, and then mindful of your feelings. And with that, it's sometimes like it's a bit boring. And this boring, it comes simply because we haven't seen a result that we are going to get at the end of the journey. But if we have seen it, and then what will happen that doesn't matter how hard it could be, but we will strive and work on that, and then working on that to get that result. It's like someone who has seen the danger, then that person will not stop. Suppose there is a fire, then that person will not stop, but will run as quickly as possible to be free from that or far away from it. Similarly, if we have seen the danger in the samsara, then obviously we see that having essential pleasures is actually rather than a shortening, it's a longing on this samsara. So having seen that, we will be reducing the essential pleasures and working on this path towards the liberation. Now, and in that again, when we look at the practice of ourselves, we have in terms of the practice meditation or mindfulness meditation, we have this desire to practice, but that desire often obstructed by certain obstacles, distractions. That distractions begins from our own physical pain, physical discomfort. So we cannot sit for the significant amount of time keeping the body still. And that is another struggle. And then further on, suppose we could sit still for, let's say, 15 minutes or 20 minutes. Another obstacle is that due to the engagement that we had, or we just had it just before the meditation, engaging with the different peoples or different situations in the jobs and entertainment with our senses, it is very easy that our mind will be distracted. So mind will be wandered off quite a lot. It's become a restless mind. So this restless mind is another way, is also very active, actively engaging non-stop. But that energy is not giving us a fruit. So with that, we also can't gain the concentration because of the restless mind. We're thinking of this, then thinking of that. And having this lack of calmness of the mind, then again, we feel like, oh, where am I? What I'm doing? And how can I get? What is going on here? So that also becomes the obstacles. And then further on, not only that, but also the latent defilements that's buried in our consciousness oftentimes can come up and then disturb us too. So in those situations, what is most important in the practice is that having this concept that, okay, I am going to put energy as much as possible to learn it by as much as possible not moving our body. Suppose we are practicing for 20 minutes, let's see, try not to move our body as much as possible. In case we do have to change, then mindfully changing it. Not in a terms of, okay, a body tells me to move, just move it. No. So body tells me to move, checking, mindfully aware of that, and then slowly moving it. Yeah? And that move could be little, just a slight move. We do not need a big move. Suppose you have a back pain, then rather than trouble too much, just slightly changing your muscles or just twisting your back can help you too. And that actually is not driven by the desire, but simply to keep the body in a comfortable position. So mindfully doing that. And that actually you are enhancing your mindfulness. So mindful move rather than just desired move. And in terms of this restless mind, then again, those cases, normally we fight with this restless mind. So there is a battle going on. I want to concentrate on the breath. Suppose you're using the breath as the anchor. I want to focus on the breath. But why I am thinking of this? Why I am thinking of that? What's going on? Why these are coming and disturbing me in those situations? And in that case, again, rather than struggling it, looking at this thinking mind, I am thinking. So disconnect this battle. We have all fighting all the time. So during the meditation, no fighting. Right? Just recognizing that, okay, I am thinking this now. Just noticing that thought of thinking. And then the moment, the beauty is that the moment when you recognize this thinking mind, the thinking, and that stops there. And the very moment when it stops, rather than just being there, again, put an effort to come back to the primary object. So this is how we will be able to deal with that. And this practice of coming back to the primary object, it seems doesn't have any result, or is just like repeatedly doing it. But actually it has a deep connection to recognize these latent defilements that saved in our consciousness. When it comes, we're able to recognize much quicker and faster and able to deal with that. And that's how our mind, the consciousness, gradually purifies, becomes more softer and more gentler, and then we can tell it to ourselves that, this is okay, let's move on, like that, right? So that's why in the practice, I would encourage you to, if possible, try to recognize the bodily need of a change, and rather than changing it straight away, try to be mindful of it, and then moving mindfully. And the same with when you're having a restless mind, suppose your eyes are closed, then before opening it, try to be mindful. Should I open or should I not? Remember, the moment when you open your eyes, you're more distracted than ever before. So, if you really want to develop your awareness and the mindfulness, then talking to yourself, should I open or not? And in that case, so you have to judge yourself. Right? If you open, you will be more distracted. If not, then you will be actually sharpening your mind to be more mindful with that. Right? So I think I have talked a bit more today. So I offer this as a reflection, and let's practice meditation. So bring your attention to this room and observe your sitting body. Find a comfortable seat by wiggling yourself around and having this comfortable and relaxed position. And acknowledging your presenceness here. Gently close your eyes and spend some time on your primary object. And making this resolution or determining yourself that during this 20 minutes of the practice, I will try to minimize the physical change and try to be mindful of this active mind. By setting this mind on this primary object, the breath rising, falling, no fighting if there is any distractions at that time. If any other distraction comes, leave the primary object and spend time. Watch that. So what? And observing for some times as the mind quietens and returns back to the primary object as the base, so that we will not be lost. So developing this a balance, a mind between the desired quietness and calmness of the mind and the distraction that often comes in different phases. Continue with your effort to be mindful as much as possible, and try to be mindful of any changes that you are making. Doesn't matter how small that change is. So continue practicing until you hear the gong.